That's the name of the book, dear colleagues. And we are finishing the track dedicated to the CISO, Chief Information Security Office.
Ну, прошлых у нас уже не осталось в группе
there are no past officers.
Они нас слышат.
We have only the present incumbent and the future officers.
Наша сегодняшняя дискуссия, она, в общем,
in our today's discussion, in essence, will be based on your questions. So, to begin with, I will ask some questions to our colleagues, but all in all, I think that the very idea is that you, by the end of the day, listening to the previous speeches, to the previous discussions, probably you came up with some questions. And now, probably you would like to ask certain questions, or probably you failed to ask questions then, and then me and other moderators, like Alexei, they missed those questions due to the lack of time. The reasons might be different, so we can repeat these questions and we will spell them out. You can find a QR code on the screen, and you can ask your questions on the Telegram channel. And I'm not the CISO, so the colleagues will take your questions. Let's start with the introduction. All the colleagues have already taken the floor, so let me remind you, Ivanov, Artem Sichov, Lev Shumsky, Ilya Zuyev, and Evgeny Voloshin. And let me start with you, Evgeny, because your role is not very easy in the company. Not only you are in charge of the information security, but you're responsible for the strategy. And hence is my question. Is it conscious growth, where this is what you had to do? Is it because you wanted to go up, because you have accumulated some experience and you decided to input that in the business of the company? Thank you so much. Let me take that question. Probably it was a kind of a legacy initially. My first position of the company was the cybersecurity director, but once you work as a security officer for the security vendor, anyway, you accumulate some experience, some expertise, and it translates into some expert products, etc. So it's kind of an evolutionary way. It is not what I had to do, but probably this is aside the information security vendors. The same is true for the CISO and for other vendors as well. So this is an evolutionary way. This is a quite logical way to go. And the fact is that there are several chairs and the position is the same. And this is our legacy. We have to distribute the responsibilities. You miss something where something escapes your attention, and therefore you have to delegate more. Thank you, thank you. Colleagues, then my first question. Oh, well, you have a lot of questions, by the way. How you justify the budgets? That's a very painful question. If the superior said that you cannot guarantee no vulnerabilities, if someone wants very much, they would hack us. As far as I started taking the questions, let me be the first. You're responsible for the strategy. Well, in essence, this question is raised very often in clients. So there are business questions. And for instance, we had an incident, so let us sack that CISO because we had an incident. And I answer, let us actually see how he reacted, because one experienced is worth two inexperienced. As for your story regarding
Бюджеты.
Про бюджеты.
Да.
The budget.
Вот если говорить со стороны вот ЦИСа, то, во-первых, это одна из ключевых
Speaking in terms of CISO, this is one of the competences of the CISO to talk to the board, and a lot's been said about that, and a lot of conferences dedicated to that, lots of information regarding that. But this is one of the main competences of the Chief Information Security Office to translate from technical lingua into the plain language of the management. And as far as we cannot guarantee the no vulnerabilities, this is not about no vulnerabilities, this is about the mitigation of the risks. That the chances that you're hacked would be decreased. This is what you're selling, not just some silver bullet, some versatile protection, etc.
то вероятность будет гораздо больше. Если делать то-то,
The chances would be bigger
то вероятность будет ниже. И покупается, и
if
продается
you
именно эта
actually
Знаешь,
don't do anything, then chances you being hacked would be bigger.
Обосновывал бюджет очень много, к сожалению.
I justified the budget many times. Unfortunately, many times I had to justify that. And very often I would be asked, what the chances are, for instance, you ask for $1 million
После фразы «вот вы просите миллиард».
or $1 billion. And I see that half of the people lost their smiles and others think, billion, what billion means?
Какая вероятность будет после того, как
Just a
мы эти
trifle.
меры
So what
внедрим?
chances are that
Ты задаешься вопросом, если я им
there'll
скажу,
be no
они спросят, а по какой
hacks
методике
after we implement those methods and measures?
все разбивается в пух и прах.
And
Мне больше,
they would ask what
то есть,
indicators you are using,
мне кажется,
and then
два
it
пути,
would all
позитивный
collapse.
и
I think there are two ways, negative and
негативный.
positive.
Входишь в культуре какой-то, говоришь,
One
«Ребят,
is when, for instance, you say, guys, we can become stronger,
мы усилим безопасность, и т.д. и т.п.
we will
Давайте
strengthen our
потратим
security,
миллиард, чтобы
let us
стать
spend
лучше».
$1 billion in order to
Не
become better.
Ну, практически
And it never
никогда,
works, almost never
в
works.
незрелых культурах. То есть, если компания,
In immature cultures, if the company,
созрела, да,
in
это
terms of the
может
cybersecurity, is mature enough, then it may work. And in the immature, it doesn't work.
риски.
But you can intimidate.
Но
You may say there are
дальше
risks.
начинается, а по какой
And then
вероятности,
They would
как
ask about the
снизить, а вот
chances, the probability, how it would mitigate that, and calculate and prove, confirm the damage, etc., etc.
проще всего говорить так, ребят, есть ключевые риски такие-то или
And
недопустимые
you may say,
в зависимости от того,
there are
что
intolerable
будет
events
принято.
where
И
there are
в целом вот
risks
концепция,
like
как
that.
эти ключевые риски митигировать. Для этого нужны люди, технологии, деньги.
For that, we need technology, people, and money. That's it. So it means that you have to
которые
have
базируются
some
на
strategy
как раз
prepared.
рисках проработанных, ключевых.
Окей, спасибо. Лев, ты добавить хотел?
Слушай,
Leo,
ну, вот
do you want
ребята
to add
практически
anything?
всё сказали. Небольшое
think-
дополнение, что подход к обоснованию бюджета зависит, наверное, от
The
общей
justification of the budget depends on the overall maturity of the company, on the growth of the company, and the cybersecurity system. You can talk to each and every of the stakeholders to explain why you need money, and then you will succeed in that. Secondly, if the company is more mature, you will have to justify through risks, through the intolerable events.
И таким образом точно так же проходишь через комитет.
And the same you do through the
обосновываешь. Вот у меня на практике
risk committee,
никогда
etc.
не было проблем с
In essence, I never had any problems
обоснованием бюджета, зная, что банки,
justifying the budgets, knowing that the banks,
часто региональные банки жалуются, вот,
even regional banks, may complain that they fail to get the budget approved. But you have to learn to talk to the business, how to improve the transparency, then the business would understand what it is spending its money on. We need transparency.
Подожди. Сейчас дай всем, так сказать. Артем,
Look,
у меня на самом деле другой, наверное, вопрос.
Artyom, actually, I have another question.
Своего
How do
подразделения.
you motivate the people from your department?
Еще быстренько. Все-таки тема у нас лайфхаки. Вдруг у кого-то...
We're speaking about lifehacks, and probably it might be of interest for anyone.
Пугать это не очень себе история.
So intimidating, this is no good for the business, and as been said by the previous speaker, said this is about the risk management, etc.
Бизнеса, заказчика. Но я обычно еще такой...
And usually, once you have an analytical cast of mind,
Как конкурентов из этого...
then you can look at the competitors, whether they were hacked, not hacked, There might be statistics as how much data was leaked, where what was the damage done money-wise. And something would ram home to the bosses, and you will justify some budgets. But again, you may say that the competitors were hacked and these were their damages, and let us not let this happen with us, and certain projects are needed, and that's a very efficient thing. Remind me about the next question.
Про очень полезный лайфхак, который вызван, как говорится, кровью. Найти среди правления самых таких, знаете, вопрошал, которые всегда всем недовольны.
There are boogeymen, people who always are insatisfied with everything. And you can make friends with such a person and ask him to challenge you before the board meeting, and he would ask so many questions that you would be surprised. And my tip is bear in mind those IT figures, because cybersecurity budget is about the level of discounts for cyber solution, just 5-7%. So, and you show how much cybersecurity costs. You have to show the ID figures, then the figures would be perceived much easier. Thank you. Thank you. In essence, my question is a little bit different, because if you have to justify your budget, believing that there will be no incidents, when the person who has no heartbeats most likely is dead, you have to commit yourself to guaranteeing that there will be no events, and you bet your head for that. This is what a CISO may do when justifying the budget. You have to find like-minded people. We have a lot of killer features that no other service in the company can do. Quite recently, there was a case when people would come from internal compliance to me, and we started discussing, like, for instance, we have questions to our internal employees that they are violating certain rules. There's suspicion of frauding. We may monitor the activity. There are other solutions, and we may sell that. When you justify the budget, they would remember that, they would gratify you, and would support you at the level of the company. A question to everyone: how do you motivate your personnel?
Зарплатой. Так.
Морковка спереди.
Compensation.
Так.
Carrot and carrot again. It would be aubergine on the back. Well, that's an excellent motivation. Well, they have to be tangible and intangible motivation. You have to give interesting tasks to your personnel so that people could fulfill themselves, and you have to offer them this opportunity to grow. And say goodbye to the people who you invested a lot of money. That's life. You have to let people go. Bid them farewell and wish them every good luck at their next position. Just like birds are flying out of their nest.
С баклажаном сзади.
So, and farewell with an aubergine in his back and carrot in his pecker. Well, we discussed the motivation several sessions ago. And for instance, HR joined me, and I had to invest a lot of time into that. Oh, really? This is the vertical of our control in the company. So the motivation looks the following way. We speak about technical personnel. The compensation is not motivation for them. If we take some young guys, 25 years old, for instance, for them, the most important thing is that they have no financial problems. So a person has to get a market level of compensation, or a little bit more. And then you have to engage other tangible things. First of all, you have to make sure that there is a team where the person is going to work. It would drive him, motivate him. He would be part of that team, and the team around the person would motivate the person to stay with the company and to develop. This is what would drive them to work.
The third point are the goals, the tasks you set, because there are some routine tasks, but you cannot throw a person with, shining eyes to some routine stuff that will burn them out. Don't let them burn out. I don't like the expression, but when they are stuck, bored, people start looking around. So if you move people, if you, move the projects or change what they are working at, especially if they work with papers or code analysis, then the person will recharge and it will be much easier for him or her to do this job, especially understanding that there are different things. So interest is important. And the fourth thing is transparency. The transparency of growth and development in the company is important. Not only the knowledge and skills should be developed, but, senior, lead developer, or whatever, move right, left. If all those things are understood and well connected, then the person will work for years and will be highly motivated. They will be interested. I would not agree with the salary being a big motivator. Little comment, if I may. It would be great to have your right hand, your deputy in the team, especially when the team is growing, to measure the internal climate. And if that person can help and highlight to you that, this is getting worse or this is better, then, bring all the cucumbers to motivate the team. And, you can fix the issues when they're starting to arise. Ilya. Well, I'm a simple person, and salary would be a big motivator for me. If you ask the whole, the audience, how many would leave if they are offered double the salary? Who would leave? And X3, okay, more people. So you get the idea. It's just to warm you up. But salary, of course, is important, but that's not the sole criteria. Being with your people and being a partner, investing in the tasks that are undertaken by the team, solving the issues, interpersonal conflicts, gathering feedback, and fixing what is wrong is very important. Colleagues, who has girls, ladies in the teams? Yep. I used to have a sad answer. What's the problem? My question is, what are the nuances? Oh, they work very well. They're very useful in any community. And
Минутка сексизма или чего у нас?
just a sexism minute, or what is it? No, I'm just asking because on Sunday we will have a women council on cybersecurity. Only women. Let me put the mic down now. Well, from my experience, people whom I worked with, they work in Google, Amazon, and many other companies, being managers and leaders, and they definitely can be much better than many men, and it's important to just motivate and provide opportunities for development. The companies you mentioned have a quota of non-traditional sexual orientations. Well, you should use the opportunity. Well, unexpected. Do you mean changing the transition, the gender transitions? Well, they do it both ways. So, how does the CISO find a new job apart from recommendations? I was looking for a new job recently. Not that I actually
Как-то так.
was looking for a new job, but people just were offering that to me. Did you do something to be public, to be offered new opportunities?
Ну, то есть, если ты
Yeah, you just do it
нормально
right, and it will be okay. So if you
все равно к тебе будут приходить, даже когда
did
ты
some
выходишь
good
на
stuff
заслуженную
during your career, people would,
как бы
follow you and offer you opportunities even after you retire. It's useful to go to
работаешь ты или не работаешь, потому что на
the interviews, despite
Ну, я просто знаю примеры, когда очень клевые люди приходили на
despite having a decent job.
позицию.
And I have a lot
А
of
почему? Потому что они
examples.
давно не были на собесах. И
People failing the interviews because they don't have the skill.
Это не дает
So going there and challenging yourself
покрыть плесенью.
is important. It just,
И с другой стороны, есть еще одна история, когда HR
enables you not to get rusty. And we have some other stories with the HR people calling you and asking you to check on your CISO. Can you come and have a look?
Связи, контакты, общение.
That's quite often. And,
там тебя уже знают.
you work with the top management of the company and they know you. And it's a good thing. Lexi, what do you mean by the word of mouth? If you invested in your personal brand, is it word of mouth? No. If you asked,
Ну, не знаю, ты работал в банке.
you worked in a bank and you asked your colleagues from a cloud
Это сарафанное радио.
provider to,
Не ходил на HeadHunter, ты там на HH.
they're looking for the job and they accepted you. So you don't do any, headhunter or any interviews. Well, actually, I never looked for a job through any services. It was always the job finding me and the offers coming from the outside. I often never put any effort into that. Maybe that's word of mouth, maybe it's personal brand, maybe something else.
Я вот поддержу Льва.
Eugene?
Я думаю,
Yeah, I would support Liu in this.
в таких больших компаниях
There's a lot of CISOs in big companies who never looked for an opportunity,
своего времени
sit on the bench and wait because of the investments in the community, in themselves, in education, in the public, some result that is visible outside. And working with people, working within the community gives a lot in that sense. Same here. I never looked for a job and it always found me.
Ко всем раз там в пару, в 3
I think
месяца
it's
приходят всякие экзек-сечи, мы там...
the same for us, for all of us.
Топ-10, топ-15, еще какой-нибудь там история.
Once every couple of months, people would ask you, headhunters, recruiters, about whether we would recommend someone, and such positions are not the ones where you would look for people on Headhunter. Would you change jobs if you are offered double the salary? No. No, I promised I'm gonna build the strategy within 3 years, and finish this, and I will be choosing only afterwards. I regret it sometimes. Well, Alexei, at the current level of development, you can think Maslow pyramid. You are at a level where you're doubling the salary makes not much sense. X4, quadrupling the salary. It's more important to be, to be growing, to be
я отвечу, что нет. И...
to be putting yourself to the right job. Yeah, my answer would also be negative. You're always public, and people knowing that you left the company for double the salary is not a good reputation. You do your job. You build the cybersecurity stance of the company. And then, yes, if you are burned out, if you want to change the field, yes, correct. You present, you're visible, and you will be welcome anywhere. Yeah, by the word of mouth. And what? Yeah, only after you finish everything you promised. Recently, money is not a driver. I do have my business also that feeds me, and it's important to have the experience and solve those tasks that fulfill your ambition. So those are the main factors. Do you see yourself outside of the CISO field? Where do you grow? CIO, CSO, CRO, CEO of your own company, or operations director? Yeah, you are already a strategy director, so you can skip. For me, the answer is not currently, maybe a minister. I have a desire to make it good in a place where a lot can be achieved. Yeah, actually, the ministry is looking for the digital transformation persons, but they said they don't have the salaries that are on the market. So reducing your salary by a factor of 2, right? Well, my discussion was about significantly reducing the amount of money. Leo, where should we grow? Anywhere. Where are you looking? Currently, I like developing my business. Not my business, but the business I work for. I had my own business that I sold. Yeah. I had an ads business, billboards. I was even the president for the association of the billboards for forest. Was it a downshifting? Yes. At that point in time, I was moving to Moscow, closing the business and starting everything from scratch. Yeah, it was definitely a challenge and a downshift. Great example. I like it. I like it a lot. This is a life hack, which is a very rare. A person going from a different area into cybersecurity. Artem. Well, talking about life hacks, I would say that CISO can become CIO, CSO, CEO in some companies, because cybersecurity persons should be analytical and curious, because you need to protect, you need to know the company, and you can choose any sort of development about your company. Yeah, you can actually become the first person, or you understand how to protect some data, you can create a cybersecurity startup, lead it. So, you understand finance, IT, security, compliance. So you are very broadly educated. And either you burn out or move somewhere, or maybe you go to another place, like in the ministry. Okay. But the question is to you, how does the CISO understand that he or she is moving in the wrong direction? If you talk to the business about your plans and you are not understood, that's a good sign that you're not doing the correct thing. And second, if you are not doing things that bring profit to the company, so you can be perceived as the person, doing the incidents or bringing money to the company. And actually, it's very easy. The products that you protect should work, not just provides us resilience and security. And one more thing, a turnover. If people leave your company, then you're doing something wrong. Yeah, CISO is definitely a people manager, and it's an important part. Maybe there's a perception that, it's a playing coach, but if your team is
Это прям уже серьезный звоночек, что что-то не
is
так.
exhausted. If your team is leaving,
Жень, к тебе же
then
вопрос.
it's a
Представь,
sure
что ты
sign that
генеральный
something is
директор, ну, в данном случае ты
going
курируешь ЦИСа,
wrong.
поэтому, наверное, схожая будет
Eugene,
история.
if you
И
manage
тебе
the
нужно
CISO of your
нанять ЦИСа, у тебя
company
на выбор следующие кандидаты,
and you hire
параметры одинаковые, возраст,
CISO,
образование,
people
опыт работы и так
are
далее,
equal,
различаются
the
только
background is
три
equal, but the
позиции
difference
кандидатов.
is
Первый тимлид
their
СОК,
current position.
тимлид Red Team,
First
тимлид
one,
инфосек, тимлид обсек,
SOC,
тимлид по методологии и
Red
compliance. Кого бы
Team,
ты выбрал?
methodology and compliance team lead,
Всех посмотрел.
blue team.
Ну,
team lead.
да, всех посмотрел.
Whom
да,
would
и
you
вот
choose?
кого ты бы
And
выбрал?
you looked at all of them.
Ну, ты
Yeah,
знаешь,
correct.
мне ближе все-таки,
Well,
я бы смотрел в Ретимера.
I would
Ну, это, наверное, профдеформация.
definitely look into a red teamer. That might be a professional deformation, and then SOC lead.
Потому что там в
Because
процессе много, но
There's a lot
всё
of
же у
processes
Ретимера-
there. But red teamer,
Я
would
тоже
have
red teamer
a lot of
со стажем,
advantages.
ну, пентестеры.
I'm also a red teamer with some
Последнее
background
время
and
были
pen
случаи,
tester,
когда мне нужно было
and we
пентестить,
had cases
лидов
when I
типа
needed
или
to
пентеста
pen test
на
the
позицию лида
the
СОКа.
the
Вот,
uh,
очень немногие,
the
к сожалению, не
red
умеют
team
defense
leads
от
to SOC lead,
вообще не
but
проблема
they
для них.
cannot do
Понять,
defense.
как это защитить комплексно,
Doing
они не
red
могут.
team
Поэтому
is
тоже здесь,
okay with them, but how to protect, they don't know. I would look at the SOC
Я
lead.
немножко оппозитно скажу. Все-таки это пентестер, да, это люди про offense, это
I
вся
would argue
история
that
вокруг вот
pen
этих
testers
моментов.
are
А
offense
есть,
people, and
ретимер это понимает, как это мы
the red teamer would
blue team,
understand
с той
how
стороны,
the
должны понимать,
infrastructure works, how the blue team
Он всё правильно
should
говорит.
Red Team должен понимать, как работает Blue Team.
should understand how the
Прямо
blue
очень
team
хорошо.
works
Они же
very
bypassят
well,
эту историю,
because
и потому они
their
точно
task
должны
is to
понимать, как это
bypass this
устроено.
story. So
И
they need to know how this all
набор
works. And
skillset. Я понимаю, что
if that skill set is present,
я бы выбрал, наверное, так.
Но они, к
I would
сожалению,
choose the red
вот, не
teamer.
знают, как построить именно
Unfortunately,
защиту
they don't know how to build
процессов,
complex
чтобы они работали.
defense and comprehensive defense system.
Ну, по крайней мере, это было у тех red
was
teamers,
something
которых
that
я
I learned from my experience, at least for the red teamers that I was interviewing.
Как хорошему
Leo,
специалисту
a
со
new
средними
question for you.
софт-скиллами
How does
легче
a
переход на должность,
good
где
specialist
нужно
with
руководить специалистами
medium
его же уровня?
soft skills,
Тут нужен,
how
наверное,
does
баги,
he
который
get to the
поможет
position
ему погрузиться
when he or she
в
manages his
менеджмент, в
current
управление
peers?
Бадри?
Well, he needs a buddy,
Бади.
definitely.
Бади?
Бади.
Buddy, a friend, a mentor,
Дайверов есть
who would
бади,
help him
которые сопровождают
to
погружение.
understand how to manage people, like, the divers have.
По-русски. Наставник.
Yeah, a mentor, a coach.
Потому что без наставника, если ты
Because
бросишь
without such a person, if you
не умеющего плавать, ну, велика вероятность,
make
что утонет.
a person go to,
У кого из вас был наставник?
to a lake and the person doesn't know how to swim,
Два.
that would be
Ну, то есть, видите,
tough. Who had a mentor in life?
люди
Yeah, two of you.
как-то смогли
Unfortunately,
без наставника.
So
Это зависит от мотивации.
people
Если я
would
просто
succeed without the mentor.
искушение, которое упало
Well, that does depend on the motivation, of course. If I'm, comparing myself often to the frog
А ты знаешь,
in
что
the
сейчас в молоко добавляют
milk
консервант,
jar.
который не позволяет, в принципе,
Do you know that currently there's a preservative added to milk, so you cannot
Когда молоко было
you cannot make it into. Yeah, but I'm referring to my past when the milk was
Окей.
natural.
Илья, ты хотел про Бади.
Ilya,
Вроде
you wanted
наставник, короче.
to talk
Я
about
хотел сказать, что у меня
buddies.
не было.
Не-
I wanted to say that I didn't have one.
Мне кажется, жизнь — это очень хороший бадди.
I think life is a very good buddy.
Леш, к слову сказать, я вот
It teaches you well.
мысль не договорил. Современная молодежь,
Actually, to
которая
continue on
как раз,
that, modern
поколение
youngsters,
зумеров,
the Zoom,
им, наверное,
Zoomer
бади очень
generation,
нужны, потому
they
что
would need a buddy,
молодежь зачастую
definitely,
живет в своем
because they
мире,
often
в цифровом
live in their
и
digital world,
навыки общения с людьми
and their communication skills are suffering.
именно
they are not very good. So, building your soft skills, managing people, communication. Are you ready to be a buddy? Well, actually, I am, and I start to get satisfaction from it because I see that I lacked this when I was young, and if people ask me for that, I do support them. Okay, so if you are approached after our discussion, you're ready to discuss the question. Yeah, if it's a good question that will move to work for me, definitely. First of all, buy our milk. It has no preservatives. And regarding people management, the same rank, the main rule is don't hinder the people from doing their job. Now, the person is an expert of your caliber, and they would be able to set the goals and manage through them. But it's important to help them go through crisis and maybe, give some vector to them. Brainstorm together and show that you are one team. And we are moving somewhere. So let's think how we can get there together. What does the company do if the data is stolen but not yet publicized and the actors are asking for ransom? Well, first of all, check that the data has been stolen. Okay, let's imagine it has been. Are you ready to pay or not? Well, we were discussing a similar case in our partner and competitor. Should they pay or not? If if you pay, you might be funding terrorism. Second thing, you talk to the management, to the media. You decide quickly, because if the management doesn't know, then it's the worst situation. And of course, check for whether the leak was definitely happening and publicize this. Yes. Do you have anything to add? Yeah, I would say it's a tough question. There's no definitive answer. You need to work together with the business. What to do? I know that based on my private discussions, people pay. There are some who don't. Sometimes they don't suffer. Some do suffer a lot. So sometimes you would even pay and they would, publicize the data. Sometimes the foreign groups from even from the nearby countries, despite the difficult situation, if they are paid, they are not publicizing the data. So this also happens. So Eugene, a question to you. Cybersecurity-wise, there are players who are good at negotiating and reducing the price. Do you have some of them in Russia? Yeah, I actually heard about this practice. There are even people who carry out those negotiations. People know how to do it, how to reduce the price if the decision was made. And it's often not on the CISO, but on the CEO level. It's usually the board of directors, and CISO should just highlight the risks and explain what assets have been lost. So I would not recommend the CISO to make those decisions themselves, because that's a bad story. Yeah, there are negotiators that help. Correct. Yeah, I would agree. And when it's about the cybersecurity budget, how did we survive without that budget? We did not have any budgets before. Yeah, an old story. When we were discussing our first budget, and I was a young CISO, and they asked why would you need, defense systems for hard drives, and you can, put a sticker on the hard drive or on the system unit. And I was asking, like, Alexei, when you are buying the car, do you put on the alarm or you put the sticker there? Of course, yeah, I do put an alarm. So this thing is exactly the alarm, so that we don't lose what we have. So bringing those examples from real life, those cases, is very good working with top managers instead of trying to explain in your own words what it is or what it is, like oil pressure sensor. People would understand what it is and they would say, yeah, we do need an oil pressure sensor. Let's buy it. Yeah, I agree with Leo. You don't need to prove anything nowadays to people, and I don't like the stories of CISOs frightening the people all over the world. There are threats growing everywhere, and money are being stolen, and this doesn't work. I think for many, many years, 10 years at least. So those simple stories and examples from the easy to understand areas, like nearby company, a competitor, was hacked, and those were the consequences. So at least fear is not a good reason. What we would be able to monitor and mitigate risks is something that I think is a good thing. Ilya. Yeah, I think people's everything was. Explain. How do you monitor the trends without compromising the, current routine? How important is the certification for cybersecurity? Well, certification is not very much needed, especially in the current situation. There are not many new ones arriving. But knowledge management, which is something that is not yet popular, how do you get that information? How do you build a second brain? I don't need all the technical details of the latest CVEs, but I need to understand what is vulnerable, how I find it, and where I find it. And as the amount of information is quite significant, we need to learn some stuff that with links, with references, that can help us get all the information we need. Do you mean Notion? Yeah, for example, one of the examples. I think Yandex has it. Yeah, Obsidian. Yeah, there's a number of things that work, depending on the usability and being able to find something fast. What would you recommend to avoid burnout as a CISO if you have no experience working as a CISO? Yeah, find something that recharges your battery. If it's your first year as CISO, there's a lot of issues that pressurize you. IT pressurizing you, internal audit. The business does not understand him or her. They are angry or sad about the mistakes. So the mistakes will be made, and it's important to understand that those mistakes are the reason he or she develops and becomes stronger. So, not concentrating on the negative part, but focusing on what is good. I learned something new. I learned this lesson or that lesson from this or that. And things that drive you, that unload you, and not alcohol, because definitely the alcohol will make you dumb in a number of months.
Мне кажется, что если человек впервые заходит на позицию CISO, то появляются некие новые обязанности.
I think that if you start in CISO position, there's some things that you never touched, like being a team lead for some specific business line, definitely it helps you to avoid burnout. If it's useful, people management, talent management, budgets. Those are the main points, because people burn out when they do the same thing over and over again. They don't get the new results, and even if they do, you know the stuff. You know how to fix things. So it's not that interesting. Yeah, a short life hack from me. Are we considering 1 year? Yeah, wait a little bit more. You'll get used to it. Hunting. Does hunting help you? Yeah, absolutely. Hunting, shooting, it recharges you emotionally. So CISO, as part of the board, is probably the worst work-life balance person, and his or her balance is skewed to work. So you need your family, you need your hobby to discharge you. So Sunday, Saturday, you are online. It was a problem for me. But I don't believe in things like burning out. I think, if you lost interest, you need to just switch the profession and find something new. It's probably not for you. You need something else. But in general, you get used to it. And when you don't get that drive, you don't get all those events all the time. For 3 days, you are not CISO and doing something else. You often become bored. But if a person understands she is burned out, not interested, then, and tired, then maybe it's just no way to stay CISO. Would you like to add something?
What may save you from exhaustion or the burnout? That's delegation of authorities. And when I take my leave, I would tell this and this guy that you do this and this, and don't call me on my vacations. And once I'm back, I will check what you have done. But it took me a lot of time to learn how to delegate. Before, I used to work 12 hours, 18 hours a day. And sadly, there were a lot of delays. But then, with an experience with the time, I realized that you don't have to work as hard as that, otherwise you will never see your family. And means that you give more freedom to the people, you delegate more, and they would develop because of that. Let me add that we have to listen to our gut feeling. You can choose some framework, strategy, how you develop your cybersecurity. Select 3-4 people you can rely on, because for CISO, it's very difficult at the very beginning, because some vendors would approach you recommending best approach.
Тем более. Вот. И у тебя разрывается вот между всем этим
сознание, мозг, are being torn apart between all those things. That's very important to have your own opinion as how you're going to develop and never change your mind. Okay, let's move next.
Не знаю, у вас был опыт работы CISO в госучреждении у кого-нибудь?
Have you ever worked as the chief information security office in a public company, whether such a company needs a CISO? Well, in terms of regulation, such a position is required. And sensitive data officer is needed. Leo, you said that you came from advertisement, you came from pen testers, I came from testers. Vlad, do you have an IT background? I have an IT background, and I worked as a pen tester, then as LC, and then I opted for this profession. I started from dynamics and microphones next to the secret room, and then I did more of risk management and business partnership.
на самом деле, мне кажется, самое оптимальное
In essence, I think this is the most optimal way for the future chief information security officer because you know everything about risk management, about budgeting, etc.
Я чуть скорректирую. Я сначала
Let
был
me
сетевиком.
correct my answer. I used to be the network guy, then I was very fond of pen testing. Let me add something to what's been said. Advertisement, it was my second profession. That helped me to make both ends meet, and my first profession, and would be shock content. I was the forensic expert because actually I was promised that I would be offered to compare the skull of a dead person with a photo, etc. And in reality, it was totally different. So then I quit the autopsy. And as far as I was more often very interested in cyber, and then my hobby turned into a profession, sadly. I did a lot of trainings, retrainings, etc. in order to achieve something. Okay. I have a question whether you're prepared to answer that. Who is more efficient, CISO from IT or from management? In essence, you all have IT background. Probably it's very difficult for you to compare or not. And CISO from management background, this is who? Just CISO without IT background. Yes, there are well-known cases when a person may have a musical background. He used to be a manager, then the chief of operations, there was appointed CISO. I don't know any such successful cases. That's a very difficult story because you can be bullshitted by your employees taking such an opportunity. And for that, you need your sidekick. Yep. You have to become an expert in order to understand the subject. And you have to invest into that. I think that the question is a little bit different. When you have a managerial background, it only takes you to deep dive into the cybersecurity and build a team and track its efficiency. But once you have an IT background, on the contrary, you have to escalate to the soft skills and to what is more efficient. I had a very successful case, and it was not a CISO. He was my boss, and he was an experienced commander from Alpha team. And we came to terms with him. And in terms of people management and team management, actually, he didn't understand anything about cybersecurity, but he would listen, would understand what are the main troubles there, and would help me in my work. That was just great. That was remarkable cooperation because he would trust me in my position, and we come to him with some specific problem. And I would say that, Sasha, I need this and this, help me. And he then would solve that problem as a commander. And it was a very good cooperation. I had an experience when we couldn't find root SOC, and I was suggested to hire a manager to that position.
Либо СИС, либо там руксок, либо еще что-то вот такое высокое, оно...
I think that the CISO or root SOC officer, such a person has to have a vision, has to understand where he wants to bring the company to, what result he or she wants to achieve, and an IT background is of paramount importance there. When this person is not just a manager, but when he understands what he is doing and where he wants to drive us. I think that this is much easier to train managerial skills in an IT guy, because managerial skills, this is actually just some skills whether you like them or not, depending on your mentality, if you have necessary charisma. But vice versa, to take a manager and train him in IT and cybersecurity, and usually it takes about 10-15 years to become a CISO for an IT guy. I think that this is no-go. You'd rather take a technical guy and make him a good manager, for instance. Positive Technologies Director who That's a former pen tester,
а не наоборот.
А директор Бизона кто?
not vice versa. And who is director of Bison?
Ну, директор Бизона
Директор Бизона, да?
разносторонний, но скорее силовой.
He is a very versatile person. Well, CEO can be from sales, that's regular, but we're speaking about CISO.
Вот про такие вещи. Все же менеджерские вещи проще освоить, чем
Still,
технические.
it's easier to master these managerial
Вас пугает
things.
конкуренция со стороны искусственного
Are you
интеллекта?
scared by AI
Представляете,
competition?
там через
Can imagine that in a year's time Yandex would launch CISO with GPT
на треке ЦИСа на ПХД.
that would actually get all the Lifehacks from positive hack days
Это будет какой-то
and
эталон,
would
но не
replace you.
самостоятельный. У нас была идея с ребятами
It
проверить,
won't be
как
able to work on its own. We wanted to check how
формализовать
GPT
какой-нибудь федеральный
can
закон, либо пешку Банка
draft
России.
a federal law
И на этом
or anything like that.
Там Банк России не может реализовать.
и на этом система сломалась.
And the system collapsed.
Окей.
Ну, меня так
Okay.
не пугает. Я
I'm not scared
на
at all.
нескольких конференциях
I quite recently attended a number of conferences dedicated to AI. I saw what AI can do. And people told me in every detail what AI now can do, and I'm not scared at all. There are some corner cases, and it is a little bit surprising, strange, but I don't see a comprehensive picture that something would
Меня скорее больше будет пугать
replace
ЦИСа,
us.
которые не умеют
I would be more scared by CISO that will be able to
не знаю, что такое матрица Митри.
use AI and
Да.
or who
Мне кажется,
will not
что
be able to use
конкуренция
AI.
хорошо. Я бы даже
Competition is
подождал
good.
того момента, когда она будет возможна, ее скорее всего
I even wait for the time when
да, действительно,
AI
и
is
важно
possible.
найти какое-то там
It's
условное
very
партнерство,
important to find some
и
partnership
возможность это использовать в работе.
or the opportunity to use that in our work rather than being afraid of the
Ну,
competition.
просто, как бы в качестве комментария, как бы ведь
Just as a
раньше были CIO,
comment,
потом им
before there
начали
was
смену, у них началась
CIO,
жесткая конкуренция с
then they were
CTO или
replaced
CTO.
with CDO or
Люди, которые
CDTO.
отвечают за
So
цифровую
these are the
трансформацию,
people
они
who are
даже
responsible
выше,
for
чем CIO
digital
по статусу.
transformation, and
Да,
according to the
единственное,
status,
таким
they
задним,
are
загнанным
more
и потерянным.
important
Вот
than
появится
CIO.
какой-нибудь, там, не знаю, не
And for
CISO,
instance,
а там Chief Business
not
Security Officer.
some chief business security officer merges, and then CISO would be driven to the, would be pushed to the
Так это
back
же есть,
burner.
насколько я знаю. Ну, то есть,
As far I understand,
Это,
there are
это
such
скорее
officers,
пост CISO. То есть
but
это такой,
they are subordinated
человек,
to
который между
CISO.
бизнесом
These are the
и
people
ИБ
between the
находится,
business and
менеджер по
cybersecurity.
отношениям.
The
Толмач,
relations
это как раз
manager,
ровно такое.
kind of an
Они как бы
interpreter from one language into
прослойка
another
между
language.
бизнесом и
So
цифрой,
that's
скорее.
the mediator
Человек,
between
который
CISO and the business. So that's a person
может общаться с обеими сторонами, потому что ЦИСа не
who
может.
can
мне
talk
кажется, как вариант,
to
это все-таки заместитель
everyone.
генерального директора, да, по
I think that it would be
безопасности. И,
deputy
изначально, если он им не становится
CEO
CISO,
in charge
да,
of
это фактором, который
cybersecurity,
стоит
and would be
задуматься.
very
Можно
deplorable
поделать и
if
что-то еще,
he
что
doesn't
бизнес не
become
понесет,
CISO,
поэтому
and that
взяли
means
другого человека
that probably you are
Окей.
speaking
Есть у
language
вас
that
подробная
business
информация?
doesn't understand. Do you have any distortion, professional distortion?
Да.
Yep.
Мне кажется, ЦИСО вообще, в принципе, человек, который...
I think that CISO, that's a person who consists of different complexes.
Сдавал всякие разные
I
психологические
passed certain psychological tests
и
when applying for a new job,
момент говорят,
and I was told,
у вас
you know,
тест показал, что вы не
the
любите
test
тех,
has shown that you do not
кто
like
не любит
those
безопасность.
who don't like
Но на
security.
самом деле, мне кажется, это вот
Well,
единственное.
in essence, I think that this is the only mistake made by the test, and the test lasted for about 8 hours, right?
Я наоборот
Well,
Их ненавижу.
больше людей,
in reality,
больше люблю тех людей, которые не понимают
I
безопасность.
love more the people who do not understand what security is, because I always
Я тебе сейчас
tend to teach them
расскажу.
whatever I
Окей. Коллеги,
know
у нас,
and can. Colleagues,
времени не осталось почти. Наверное,
we have no
последний вопрос
time, and
каждому
probably
из
that
вас.
would be the last question to each of you.
Один факап из вашей жизни,
One fuck
который
up
вам
from your life
запомнился
that you
больше
remember
всего. Вот
most
как
of all.
ИБшника, как ЦИСа.
In terms of cybersecurity, CISO, I can answer that immediately. There was a case when
Значит, один белый хакер принес
one white hacker
как можно Log4j
told me how Log4j can penetrate through our protection tools, and while others were drinking the bar, we were fixing that. And I came to the IT guys, I collected all the responsible people and said, that's the problem, and we have to fix it. And they said, okay. And they proceeded immediately with that. And the same night I was waken up, and I was told that there's information that you were hacked. And I said, where you got that information from? Other organizations called and said that we will not work with you because you are hacked. One of those IT guys decided to sell that information to the mass media, and he distorted that information in order to make a hype. And finally, we had to dissipate that rumor because it was totally unfriendly, and we just paid money to that white hacker for the leak.
Я что-то не могу такое прям специфическое CISO.
I cannot remember something specific to my CISO position. So once I sent a report to wrong person, so the report about what? About an incident.
Внутри компании или за пределами?
Within the company,
За пределы компании, да.
beyond the company.
Факап был, да. Инцидент.
It was a real fuck-up. So the incident took place in the company, and I sent the report to a client outside the company. Probably that's my fuck-up. That's it? That's all? I cannot remember anything. Cannot think of anything else. There was an interesting case when we would be implementing a project focusing on the security of the code, and once on the side of prod, actually, we see the word fuck, but written in the reverse order. So it means they have to control the security of the content, to keep track of different attributes. If you remember 2022, there was a popular feature when the libraries would be substituted. And you will see some specific slogans there. We missed that, and then we had to fix it later on. What I can remember, this is the taking stock of everything, and 100% of everything seemed to be covered. But for instance, where the incident occurred, the protection tools were not renewed, and the CISO was very ashamed for that, so I remember that fuck up. Leo, I think that you are thinking about something. Are you selecting the one which is most memorable? I'm at loss because I was thinking of at least one fuck up. Well, I cannot remember any. The only fuck up, which is my personal one probably, is about the relations that brought me a lot of trouble. So a person let me down, and that's it. And then I had to deal with that for quite a while. Okay, thank you so much.